Hello and welcome back to the Dove podcast. Today we're talking about expectations and how having high expectations can lead to some sadness, and also how process is more important than result. I'm Allie. I'm a staff therapist here at Dove Psychotherapy of Chicago.
And I'm Adam. I'm the executive and clinical director here at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago.
Yes, here at Delve Psych, we offer individual, couples, family, and group therapy. So if you're interested in a consultation call, head on over to delvepsych.com. That's DELVEPSYCH.com. And do check out our Substack at delvepsych.substack.com. We're not trying for fame here with the podcast. We don't plan to run any ads. We're just trying to add value and be helpful to as many people as possible. So please share this with others, at least one other person. It would be very helpful.
Yeah, so the listener would not know, but we've taken a few weeks hiatus from this. So we recorded a bunch, got them out in advance, and this is session 1 coming back after our little break. So big question, Allie, do we remember how to talk to each other?
I don't know, because I did that whole intro a little out of order. So
Good on you for winging it, improvising.
Yeah, I kept it going. I kept it pushing. So we'll see if you remember how to do this. We might be a little rusty. I don't know.
After COVID COVID never really ended, but after we started to be allowed to kind of come outside again and actually talk to people, every once in a while you would come across this person who'd clearly been inside for months upon months upon months. And the first conversation back with them, you're like, I think you should practice a few more times. You just need a few more runs to just get back into the swing of talking, it seems.
Yes.
So hopefully that's not our experience here today.
Yes, I agree. Hopefully we fall right back into it, Adam.
We shall see.
Okay, so this was an Instagram video that you sent me, and it's the comedian Jimmy Carr, and he's on stage, and he has an interviewer talking to him, and we should preface that not all of Jimmy's jokes are multiculturally sensitive.
Jimmy likes to use some of the words that British comedians like to use, and also tell some of the jokes that comedians who were coming through the 90s and noughties like to say. So we're not endorsing the man's moral compass overall, but the message is an interesting one in this particular video.
Yes. It's interesting. I wouldn't have known he was a comedian based on this video alone. He came off more like a philosopher in this video. And so basically he's talking about expectations here, and how a lot of times we have these big expectations for New Year's and birthdays, and how it's going to be this magical midnight kiss, or like the birthday is just going to be like the most fun you've ever had in your entire life. And when the reality doesn't meet those expectations, which happens most often when we have those high expectations, we can feel a bit disappointed. And so what he said in the video was, expectations exceeded is where happiness lives. And he was talking about how, like, sometimes a random Monday where, like, our friend randomly calls us up and is like, hey, there's, karaoke at this place tonight. You want to just go on a whim? And you end up going there. And then you end up like on a sort of adventure of sorts, and end up finding this really cool hole in the wall pizzeria. And then, you just kind of like go with whatever is happening. That random Monday could end up being like the best time ever. And that can bring a lot of joy. So I guess I'm curious, Adam, your thoughts on this idea of expectations exceeded is where happiness lives. And even more specifically, I'm curious, does that mean we should lower our expectations overall?
I actually take it slightly differently, although I do think that there's some of that in there, but I feel like it is an invitation to say yes to things. I think that we are far too meta-gamey about life these days. We're trying to kind of like get every little piece of it aligned in just the most perfect way to make sure that all the chips fall exactly the way that we want them to. And just frankly, life is not going to comply with these wishes or whims. It's just never going to. But I do think that the surprise exceedance of expectation is one of the greatest delights that we could ever come across. But how do you create that scenario for yourself, right? You have to start to say yes to things that you wouldn't normally say yes to. If you keep just picking what you already do and what you already think in the environments that you tend to be in, then you're going to keep getting what you've already got. So you have to sort of take this moment when somebody says, do you want to take up salsa? You say, I'm a terrible dancer. No, then you're going to stay the same. But if you can say, let me go make a fool of myself and see what the experience is, you can find stuff.
Yeah, this sort of like, I agree. A lot of us try to curate our lives in such a way where everything is like, oh, it's going to happen this way and this way and this way. And I mean, I think a lot of our lives now, especially with social media, especially like Instagram, everything is so curated. But I think a lot of the joy happens in the moments where things aren't expected and maybe don't go as planned and kind of catch us off guard. And that's life, right? Like that is really what life is all about, is these like serendipitous moments that are not pre-planned. And what you're saying is like, okay, in order for that, because we can't like curate something unexpected happening, but what we can do is say yes to more things that put us in situations that we normally wouldn't be in.
Right. And the trade-off is sometimes your expectations will be exactly matched. And so sometimes you're thinking, this is going to be weird. And then you go and do it. And you're like, yep, that was weird. So sometimes that's the case. But I feel like that's a risk worth taking. Maybe that's just the improviser's brain here, where we're a little bit more willing to publicly, socially suffer. But I encourage it as an approach. If people are open to trying it, I'm pitching this as an idea. It's like, put yourself in weird situations and let it be weird, let it be awkward, because you'll find stuff there. You'll have experiences there, and it'll be, you either get something of this kind of surprise experience like Jimmy Carr's talking about, or you have a story to tell.
Oh yeah. So I guess how do you think about this idea of like, do you think our expectations in general are too high? Should we not have as high of expectations for things? Like, I don't
know. I think expectation tends to be something of an enemy. Honestly, I really do. I think that if I practice from many approaches and I consider many philosophies, but one of them that I think I return to quite often, not solely, but quite often, is the idea of kind of mindfulness and if you will, kind of momentary meditation. And I think the more that we start down the pathway of expectation, the more that we're sort of trying to, like I said before, like metagame life, the more that we're doing that, the less we're living in the present moment, seeing life as it is. And there's that old Buddhist quote that much of the world's suffering comes from failing to see it as it is.
know.
Well, how do we fail? How do we go about the task of failing? Well, we start getting ahead of ourselves. We start thinking into the future. We're like, oh, well, when I do this and then that and then that, then I'll be happy, or then I'll have it. Once these things are all in place, then I'll be happy. You're here right now. It's Thursday right now. What is happiness within that context look like? What is connecting with the current moment look like?
Absolutely. It's so sad. I hear so many people say a similar thing of like, okay, once I get in this relationship, then I'll be happy. Or once I get this certain type of job, then I'll be happy. Or once I get my house, my dream house that I've been dreaming about my whole life, then I'll be happy. So you're going to wait 20, 30, 40 years to be happy? That's what you're telling me?
Not only that, but it's also not going to work. I mean, through long-term psychotherapy, because I get the opportunity to practice providing long-term psychotherapy, I get the opportunity to watch how let's say you gave the example of somebody saying, once I have a relationship, then I'll be happy. I've had the experience multiple times of seeing somebody in the pre-relationship state and the post-relationship state. My assessment being that the relationship itself is healthy and good and yeah, probably long lasting as much as any of us can tell, that sort of thing. And yet the thought process remains the same. You know, if comparison is a major part of the pre-relationship thought process, there's a brief reprieve when you start a relationship and you're getting used to it and you're getting comfortable. And perhaps you have a little bit more support around it after the fact. But yeah, very often you go right back to comparing in a slightly different way to maybe some slightly different people for slightly different reasons. But it's the how of it. It's how we are thinking and how we're going about living our life rather than the events that are themselves occurring.
And
I remember, I'm so sorry, but I was going to say,
go
I
ahead.
remember the day that I finished my PhD. I wasn't particularly happy. I don't know what the emotion was exactly, but I remember being like, well, shit, guess that's done. 9 years of my life.
My God, that is a long, long, long time. Yeah. I mean, I think so. I recently passed my NCE, National Counselor Examination. And I will say, for the rest of that day, I was pretty happy. I was like, I'm done. I did it.
Yeah.
Yay.
Doing heel clicks down the sidewalk.
Yes. But the next day, I was like, all right.
I do the dishes now.
Now what? You know?
Yeah, it's weird. We have this kind of image in our mind of the momentousness of these occasions. Well, where did we get that? Who sold us that? I think a lot of that is the movies, though we both like them, though we both like movies. And, well, you like movies. I like stories and theater and such. You like that, too.
I like it, too.
I know. You like it all. I'm persnickety about movies.
Why?
I just don't have a lot of time. I just am doing stuff. So it's not so much that I got a problem with movies, but I rarely pick it. I'm often quite delighted when I do, but this makes me being an improviser much more difficult because several times people are making references to obviously famous movies and I have no clue. Right. Revisit our Back to the Future conversation. Now we're going back to the Future conversation. But anyway, or I'm in sessions with a client and they're referencing some, actor or scene or movie. And I'm like, I can't.
Sorry.
So I have certain clients who every time they start to bring up the name of somebody, they're like, oh, you know that. No, you don't. No, you know no one. You know nothing.
You know nothing, Adam. Do you know that reference? You know nothing, Jon Snow?
Jon Snow. Oh, yes, that one I know. Game of Thrones.
Okay, yeah. Okay, there we go.
No,
Kit Harington.
Kit Harington was the recipient
Jon
of that.
Snow. Yeah, Jon Snow. And the person that said it was, I forget her name. It's been a long time since I watched that show. And the finale was so disappointing that I don't know.
No.
Anyways, so anyway, this idea of being in process is another thing that he says in the same video of like enjoying the process, not the results. And he also says something interesting. He says, it's much more about how you are in the world. Okay, no. How you are in the world is much more important than how the world is.
Yes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Snaps for you, Jimmy Carr. Absolutely. Because again, like I think we keep trying to. There's kind of a subtle narcissism about the way that so many people think these days. That we want to we imagine ourselves embarking on these quests to monumentally shift major things. And, even if you look back at history, the biggest influencers on the world tended to still be quite small themselves. They needed a lot of help. They ran into barriers and boundaries. You even look at somebody like Genghis Khan, probably one of the most influential people ever in history. still ran into boundaries, still ran into limitations, did not actually conquer the world. And I think is speculated to have just died of disease at a relatively young age. So take that, asshole, I guess. But it's, I think that we've got this idea that to some degree, it's generational too. I think the generation that I grew up in, and maybe a little bit you too, was very much taught like that mentality of you can do anything.
Oh yeah.
No, you fucking can't.
You can't.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And so then we're disappointed when we realize, oh, we can't do anything.
Right.
Because we were told, we were sold. Yeah, we were sold that idea. You can be anything you want to be, and you can accomplish anything you want. And I mean, I think, yes, with like hard work and determination and putting yourself in, challenging and comfortable situations, sure. Not everyone can become a judge on The Voice. Like, there's only
I've seen it. I've watched so many episodes of
No,
The
you
Voice.
have not. But I'm just saying, like that could be a goal of yours, but like the odds of you being one of the few, first of all, you have to be a very famous musician, and then you have to be in the right place in the right time.
Or Simon Cowell, right?
Or Simon Cowell. He's the exception to the rule. But like the odds are, I don't know what exactly the statistics on what the odds would be for you being a judge on this show, but they're very small. So like you not attaining that goal, probably pretty likely. And this is not me trying to like rag on your goals and dreams. I want you to pursue the dreams. I want you to be intentional about the process of how you're pursuing the dreams rather than only focusing on that one outcome. And if you don't get that one outcome, then you're devastated and your whole life was for nothing. And it was all a wash. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you've talked about that a bit with respect to your journey through acting. I mean, knowing that it was going to be a big risk, taking a shot at it. I think you've shared as well being quite devastated at just finding that it wasn't as workable as you hoped, and making a different choice and really coming to have some peace with that.
Yeah, I really think as an actor, you have to love the process of the auditioning and the not knowing and the work is the auditioning. The work isn't booking a lead on a TV show and winning an Oscar. That is not the work.
Mm-mm.
Most of the time you're going to be grinding and auditioning and being pinned and then let go and then not knowing next and not knowing when your next paycheck is coming. So like that's being an actor. That's the process. And most of your life is going to be that. So,
right.
Yeah.
What's the quote that most of becoming an actor is making coffee?
Oh yeah. So. I make plenty of coffee in my time as an actor. Yeah. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. But that's, it's, I think if we can de-glamorize the process and stop living in the future of the kind of glorious outcome that might come to be, then we can decide, is this what I mean to be doing right now? And I can, I don't have to be happy that's the other thing I'll say about Jimmy Carr's. I actually think that we've got a little bit of a red herring in here in terms of happiness being kind of a target or a goal. I don't know what the hell happiness is. I don't know if it's ever attained. And if it is, I'm fairly sure it's fleeting. But I can have a very purposeful, intentional existence while toiling, while suffering even. And I think that can lead to a greater sense of kind of fulfillment in life.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea of fulfillment rather than happiness. I don't know if that's how you would want to phrase it, but I like the idea of, this pursuit having some sort of sense of fulfillment with it. Maybe you're not always happy all the time, but there's like meaning behind it, and you find fulfillment in that meaning. I don't know. That's how I like to see it.
Yeah, we When we go through the didactic program, the training program with the trainees, we try our hardest to define what the point of psychotherapy is. And I find very quickly that that turns into a conversation about what mental health is,
Yeah.
which then gets contrasted with mental unhealth, which sometimes gets called mental illness, if you will, but that's a very particular mentality, or abnormal psychology, a class that I've taught many a time. That's a very particular mentality. But what does it mean to be mentally well, and what does it mean to be mentally unwell, if you will? And I then find that that turns very quickly into something of a discussion of like, kind of, what's the point of life?
Could get existential real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we supposed to be happy most of the time?
Yeah, and something I do with the didactic, well, no, we're not, by the way. I will answer that question definitively. But something that I try to do with the didactic program is kind of present the same question each year to a new cohort and see if they can kind of advance the narrative a little bit, which has been a really interesting exercise for me. Sometimes it's like a worksheet that we're working on. Sometimes it's a definition that we're playing with, but it's some piece of this broader puzzle that we put together that I just want their feedback and take on. And I often find that these are smart people who are coming through here and doing these things. And it's just enough time for me to kind of have put it away and maybe done some quiet background integration and then bring it back out and try to display it, defend it, and update this year's cohort on like, here's the present thinking. What do we think? As well as trying to kind of safeguard against all the past steps that we've taken to kind of get it to where it's at. And I find that an extremely interesting enterprise. And if I can find it, let me actually look at what we came up with this year. I know I posted it in our group.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly, but I would love to rehear it.
Yeah, let's see what we came up with.
Because I think as you're pulling that up, because I think I hear a lot of clients when they start therapy on like their intake forms and such, a good amount will say that why they're coming to therapy is that they want to be happier. And I get it. Like, why wouldn't you want to be happier? I want to be happier, you know? And I could see somebody being like, well, then what's the point? If it's not me feeling happier, why?
Yeah, it gets so complicated to try to answer that question. But I think that that's our job. You know, some time ago we did the podcast episode where I tried to kind of deconstruct psychology a little bit, and then we started the conversation on reconstructing it, and I had much more on deconstructing than reconstructing. I've since worked on it, but yeah, it's I found it. That's why you hear my voice trailing off slightly. But this is our charge. This is our job. We have to try to come up with an answer.
Right.
Okay. So I had it and I lost it. 1 second.
Not a problem.
So our this year's working definition for what mental wellness is, and I will say we have 2 interns this year. One of them was not happy with this definition.
Okay.
But that's okay, right? Like that's what we invite that. I think sometimes people can get very protective of their ideas. Break shit. It's useful. Okay. Anyway, this year's definition is mental wellness is a belief that one can relate to one's own emotions and select their behaviors using multiple psychological strategies and with purpose-driven self-determination.
Yes, a lot of words. And again, it's very hard to encompass all of what mental wellness is or could be in a couple sentences. Yes, I like this idea of being able to relate to our emotions, being able to thoughtfully and intentionally choose our actions. You know, we're not bounded by, oh, I was feeling angry, so I just broke shit, as you
break shit
did you
metaphorically, if
mean
you will.
did you mean to do that? No. Okay. Well, so, mental wellness, this person, even though they may feel angry, they're going to intentionally make a choice that is in line with their values or what they actually want to be doing with their life. And then I like that purpose actually found its way into this definition, because I actually find that word coming up a lot in sessions with my clients, like this idea of feeling purposeful in life. I think can be really, there's something to that, right? Like having some sort of like what you're doing here with this, if you believe that this is your one given life, what are you doing with it? What are you doing with this this time that you're here? And do you feel purposeful in it? Is there like meaning behind what you want to do here? I feel like that just can bring so much fulfillment, and mental wellness. I don't know. So I agree. I would have to like sit on it a little bit if I wanted to make any sort of adjustments. But so far, I like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've even kind of gone down the path of exploring purpose a bit. I think if I were to start to take some shots at parts of this with some of the analysis that I don't know, come across this year, I think I had taken as a given the idea of purpose, because it is quite, I mean, it's quotidian in our work. Like we hear about it constantly. I feel it constantly. I want to and strive. I strive for purpose and direction and this kind of element of striving. Yeah. But I don't think it's the only mentality. And I wonder about the value of sitting purposelessly and why that makes us so uncomfortable. And is that, I don't have any of this solved, by the way, but like, is that a temporary state? Is there a downside to that, right? Like stillness can be something of a pursuit, and presence in the present moment can be something of a pursuit, or even just like reflection. So let's say you're, 40 years old and have taken to hours-long meditation. Is there something wrong with that? Do we need to kind of like shoehorn, oh, well, that's your purpose, into that person's experience in order to make this definition work? Or can we say, okay, it's interesting that stillness got chosen, and is there a value to just staying and being and noticing and seeing?
Well, I think about like monks that like choose to meditate for several days on end. And I mean, even if they say like there's no, like I'm not, maybe this idea of just meditating for days on end doesn't fit in with the traditional like Western US capitalist views of purpose. I think there is still a purpose in them doing that. What do they get out of that?
Well,
like
that's where I fear we might be falling into the trap of presupposing purpose as a necessary thing. This is what I've been thinking about this year. So you have not heard me talk about this.
No,
previous.
I have not. No.
I don't know if I've talked about this with anybody. Maybe Andrea a little bit. Anyway, that I think because of our kind of Western mentality, we think in this strivey, movie forward kind of way. And the Delve model really does have that integrated into its framework.
Yeah.
But if we were to take that away and say, what is the healthiest version of non-striving? I think I come up with two and maybe three. One is just sitting, being in a meditative sense, just noticing. That does feel like that by itself, without the need to kind of shoehorn this idea of striving into it, can be something quite healthy. I think it's possible for it to be. And I think another way is, I think about near the end of life, reflection, and just at some point, it's fair game to sort of say, I'm done trying to do shit. I just want to be here and I want to remember. I want to reminisce. I think that that's fair game too, and I feel like that could be a kind of healthy non-striving. The third that I consider is if one of those is present tense and one of those is past tense, what is the future tense non-striving? I don't know. I suppose it's supposing. I suppose it's just like cogitating about what possibilities may rise, but like in an emotionally detached kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, I think about who is the more mentally well person, the one who um is has won all of the awards, lives in a huge house, has their star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, um, has just strove for so much in their life, or was it the simple man who maybe was a farmer and just, lived off the land and didn't ask for too much, didn't have much high expectations for life, or for what he would get out of life, and just enjoyed time with his wife and his grandkids and his family, and sat in his rocking chair and enjoyed the sunset.
There is one actor that seems to be like that, and again, this is where it fails me because I don't know their names. Do you know who I'm talking about? Like it's
We
the
could play
British
a
guy.
game of what's it
Yeah,
called?
he's 20 questions. He's a British guy. Um, God, he looks like the guy from Peaky Blinders, but I don't think it is that guy. It might be.
Okay, well, I haven't seen Peaky Blinders, so this is where we.
Oh, it is Cillian Murphy. Is that him?
Oh, I like Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, I feel like people describe him as the like least striving to be famous person.
Mm.
And so it's just sort of like I'm here and I'm doing this thing. I'm enjoying it, but like I'm not trying to be famous. I just am.
Mm-hmm. He just
Sort of.
happened upon it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
don't know his backstory
I
terribly
don't know
well.
either. I don't know either. It's an interesting idea, and I think some schools of thought are completely the opposite of what, like, this question you're trying to pose, of like maybe the stillness and not having any sort of purpose is great for mental wellness. Like logotherapy, for example, is all about finding the meaning and purpose in life, and that in and of itself um results in mental wellness. So that whole theory is about finding purpose. um so I think I don't know, it's an interesting question. I know personally that when I feel like I'm connected to a purpose of what I'm doing, I feel so much more invigorated by life. I feel so much more motivated and connected and excited.
Mm-hmm.
And that results in more mental wellness for myself. So I don't know, maybe
Well,
others could be different, but
here's the rub, because me too, and that's partially why I've got this kind of strivey element to the mentality that I've pushed so hard in the Delve model. But let's see if we can be critical of ourselves here a little bit.
sure.
Why does that feel good? If we follow some of the principles that we teach in the Delve model, it would be that there's some kind of, if you will, ego cohesion to it.
Yeah.
If we go down the identity pathway, it would be that there's an alignment between the present tense realized self and the idealized self. I'm becoming who I want to become. Now, where does that come from? We posit that the idealized self comes largely from role models, the people that we want to be like,
Yeah.
anti-role models, the people that we don't want to be like, and then to some degree kind of like some systemic messaging around what you're supposed to be, especially like what does the government tell me I'm supposed to be? What does our economic system push us toward? What do our social systems and religious constructs and such suggest that we should be? I wrote that blog post a while back on the folkways of a society, and it came from that book I cannot think of the name of right now, but there's a Substack article up there about the 24 folkways. Like that's where our mentality is about who am I supposed to be come from. Our families tell us, our governments tell us, our economics tell us, our friends tell us, our circumstance, maybe even our like quite literal weathery climate tell us who are you supposed to be. And then when we're closer to that, we're like, yeah, I'm being who I mean to be.
Right.
Or I'm at least striving in that direction. And so we could be tricked by that easing, by that motivation that we find there. It feels good, so it must be good, right? But maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
This is so much for a mini-sode.
This is, and also so much further from the original. I mean, not really. I mean, he did talk about, process over product but I'm just saying, like, it is far from the original prompt that we started with.
I've missed talking to you, Allie.
But clearly we're making up for lost time here. We have a lot more to say to each other. I really think this is like an ongoing conversation about like mental wellness, the definition of it, the existential question of like, yeah, what do we do with our lives? Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll keep working on it, I guess.
Guys. All right. All right. New quote on the
I'm
board.
just imagining the person that was trying to watch this before bed. They're like kind of snuggling into the bed. They're listening to a nice, calm little podcast. We get all existential. They're sitting there 2 o'clock in the morning, eyes wide open, going like, "Well, now what?" New quote.
Well, now I have to think about what I'm doing with my life. I mean, okay. All right. New quote on the board. Yeah, but boundaries are selfish. They're supposed to be. Yeah, I hear a lot of clients when we talk about boundaries, there's this like aversion, like, oh, but that's selfish of me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being selfish, there's a negative connotation to it when it doesn't have to be. I think sometimes being selfish can be a good thing and necessary in some circumstances. And yeah, you're taking care of yourself here. That's the point of boundaries.
Right. And we have to remember too that boundaries are not what you must do. It is what I will do given certain contexts that I may be able to predict.
Exactly.
So, and communicating those to others. Well, I remember this classic example. I think Savage, Ben Savage, Dave Savage. Oh gosh, I got to look it up.
Those are like, aren't those actors like from like Boy Meets World? Or am I totally?
No, one of those is
Ben Savage is the boy from Boy Meets World.
Dan Savage.
Okay.
The podcaster. Yeah.
Okay.
He has. I remember him taking a question one time, like, my partner wears a cologne that I absolutely hate. I don't want to be near them when they're wearing it. It like activates my allergies, but they insist on wearing it. That's my scent. And they keep telling me that I need to just be okay with that being being that scent. So what do I do here? And he kind of points out, like, I'm not telling you what you wear. You can wear or not wear whatever cologne you want. I will tell you what I will do if you're wearing it, which is that I'm not going to stand right next to you. I'm not going to stay in the same bed. I'm not like, those are my choices respective to what you are going to do. So wear it or don't, it is going to change what I do. But I have to do that for me because I've identified this as an important boundary to me. So do whatever you want. I can have feelings about it. You can have feelings about it, but the feelings aren't the point here. The boundary is me communicating to you, if A, I will B.
Yes.
And we don't have to be, that doesn't have to be a fraught, psychologically complicated, relationally damaging conversation. It can be like, hey, I don't really like that. And I just want to say that if you're thinking that's going to keep happening, that this is the way that I'm going to have to respond.
Yeah, but I think there are people that, especially the people that struggle with this idea of boundaries are selfish. I feel that it's the people that typically have a hard time sticking up for themselves.
Yes.
Because they want to people please and they don't want to upset their partner. Oh, but my partner would feel sad if I'm not around them when they're wearing this cologne. Well, tough cookies kind of for the, like, because and up in a different train of thought, I think a lot of times the approach to boundaries is I'm going to keep telling my partner that they can't wear that cologne.
Right. No, that's not how that works.
That's not how that works. Sure, you can ask them, like maybe.
Would you mind?
Would you mind? But the partner could say, no, this is my set. Like,
yeah.
Sorry.
Right.
But yeah. And then it's so interesting when the person who, the partner who wears the scent is then upset when the other partner chooses to not be around them. It's like, what? Because they want to have their cake and eat it too. Like, but I want to wear my cologne and I want you to stand next to me. No, that's not the boundary.
Yeah. Well, I made a different choice and I communicated it to you ahead of time. So you were fully knowing about what is going to happen when X equals Y, like it's been explicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Focus on what you're doing versus what you want the other person to do different.
That's basically like the most important therapy, most important message in all of relationship and couple therapy. Quit with the focus on them.
Mm-hmm.
Stay with the focus on you.
Yep. All right. I think that's a great place to end this podcast episode today. Thank you for following us on this winding journey. Clearly, we've missed talking to each other. And
yeah, that was fun.
That was fun. As always, at Delve, we offer individual, couples, group, and family therapy. Head on over to delvepsych.com for a free consultation call, DELVEPSYCH.com, and check out our blog on Substack at delvepsych.substack.com.
Toodly-doo.
Toodly-doo.